The sun dipped below the jagged peaks of the Evergreen Mountains, painting the sky with hues of amber and crimson that reminded me of autumn leaves. I sat in my cramped ranger station, eyes heavy after a long day of patrolling, when the radio crackled to life. "Alex, you there?" The gravelly voice of my supervisor, Hank, cut through the silence. There was an urgency in his tone that immediately set me on edge. "I'm here, Hank. What's up?" "We've got a missing group at Crystal Lake, 3 hikers. Didn't return last night as planned." I sighed, running a hand through my disheveled hair. It was my first year as a ranger in Evergreen National Park, and I was already getting used to the strange tales the locals told. Legends of mysterious creatures dwelling in the depths of the forest, of odd lights seen on moonless nights, of sounds that belonged to no known animal. I always dismissed these stories as local folklore, designed to scare tourists and keep children away from the forest at night. But something about this call left me uneasy. Maybe it was the tone in Hank's voice, or maybe it was the way the shadows seemed to lengthen outside my window, like fingers trying to reach the cabin. "I'm on my way," I responded, already grabbing my gear. "Any info on them?" 3 women, all locals. Know the area well. The weird thing is, they're experienced hikers, Alec. Not the type to get lost easily. Those words echoed in my mind as I drove to the rendezvous. The car radio picked up only static, as if something was interfering with the signal. Occasionally, I could have sworn I heard voices whispering through the noise, but whenever I tried to tune in better, they vanished. I arrived at the meeting point when night had fully fallen. Air was heavy and damp, laden with the scent of pine and something else. Something I couldn't identify, which made my stomach churn. The husband of one of the hikers was there, his eyes red from crying. Beside him, a young woman, probably his daughter, stared into the forest with a mixture of fear and determination. "I'm Ranger Alex," I introduced myself, trying to keep my voice calm and professional. "Can you tell me more about your wife and the others?" The man, who introduced himself as David, nodded, swallowing a sob. "They do this every year," that his voice trembling. "The tradition. 3 days of hiking, always the same route. They always come back. Always." The daughter, Emma, chimed in. "Mom knows those trails like the back of her hand. She's been taking me there since I was a kid. Doesn't make sense for them to have gotten lost." I jotted down the details. 3 women, all in their 40s. David's wife, Lisa, sister Karen, and their longtime friend, Rachel. Bright red backpack. Top-of-the-line hiking gear. Did they take any weapons?" I asked hesitant. David frowned. "Weapons? Why would they take weapons on a hike?" I averted my gaze, not wanting to worry him further. Just checking all possibilities. Sometimes people decide to do a bit of hunting too. But that wasn't why I had asked. The stories I had heard in local bars, whispered by old hunters after a few drinks, spoke of things in the forest. Things you'd want more than a hiking stick again. "I'll start the search immediately," I assured them. "We have a team on the way, but I'll get a head start on the reconnaissance." Emma stepped forward. "I'm coming with you." "No way," David and I said in unison. "Dad, I know that area as well as Mom does. I can help." I looked into the girl's eyes and saw determination. She reminded me of myself years ago when I decided to become a ranger after the incident that brought me to these mountains in the first place. "All right," I finally conceded. "But you stay with me at all times, understood?" David looked like he wanted to protest. Something in my gaze must have convinced him. He hugged his daughter tightly. "Be careful, sweetheart. Bring your mother back." As we prepared to enter the forest, I couldn't help but notice how the trees seemed to close in around us, as if they were trying to keep us out. Or perhaps, I thought with a shiver, trying to keep us in. The forest at night is a completely different world. Shadows dance in the light of our flashlights, transforming familiar trunks into menacing shapes. The call of night birds echoes between the trees, sometimes sounding eerily similar to distant screams. Emma walked beside me, her eyes scanning the ground for signs of passage. The girl knew the area well, that was clear. She pointed out marks I would have missed. Broken twig here, a half-faded footprint there. "They usually camp near Pine Creek," Emma explained, her voice low, as if afraid to disturb the silence of the forest. "There's a clearing there that Mom says is perfect for stargazing." I nodded, consulting my map. Pine Creek wasn't far, but the terrain was treacherous, especially at night. As we advanced, I couldn't help but notice how the forest sounds seemed wrong. There were long moments of absolute silence, followed by explosions of activity, birds chirping frantically, small animals scurrying in the underbrush. "Something's spooking the animals," I muttered, more to myself than to Emma. The girl shot me a worried look. "You think it might be a mountain lion?" I hesitated. Mountain lions were common in the area. But that didn't explain the feeling of unease growing in my stomach. "Maybe," I replied, not wanting to alarm her. "Let's stay alert." After about an hour of hiking, we reached the edge of the clearing. The moon, almost full, reflected off the still water of a small pond, creating a silver mirror that seemed to stretch to infinity. And there, stranded on the muddy bank, were the backpacks. "Those are their packs," Emma exclaimed, running towards the bright red bag. "Emma, wait," I shouted. The girl was already examining the gear. I reached her quickly, my eyes scanning the area for any sign of danger. Backpacks were intact, with no signs of struggle or damage. The hiking poles were still in place, and there were even some energy bars left in the side pocket. "This doesn't make sense," Emma murmured, her voice trembling slightly. "Why would they abandon their gear like this?" I examined the ground around the backpacks. Footprints were confused, overlapping, as if the group had walked in circles before moving away from the clearing. There was something else. "Emma, come look at this," I called, pointing my flashlight at a mark in the mud. The girl approached, frowning as she saw the impression. It was a footprint, but not of a human or any animal I knew. It was large, easily twice the size of my own boot, with marks that looked like claws at the tip of the toes. "What? What is that?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head, unable to offer an explanation. My mind went back to the stories I had heard, to the legends about creatures that inhabited the deepest parts of the forest. I had always dismissed them as superstition, but now, "Let's follow the tracks," I said finally, trying to keep my voice steady. They must have gone to the campsite. We followed the footprints away from the clearing, entering a denser part of the forest. Air grew colder, and a thin mist began to form around us, making visibility difficult. That's when we heard it. A low sound, almost at the limit of hearing. A long, agonized moan that seemed to come from all directions at once. Emma grabbed my arm, her eyes wide with fear. "What was that?" I swallowed hard, my hand instinctively going to the gun in my holster. "Probably just the wind in the trees," I replied, not believing my own words. We continued advancing, the sound occasionally returning, each time louder, each time more human. And then, suddenly, we stopped. In front of us in a small clearing were the tents, or what was left of them. Campsite was in ruins. The tents had been torn, as if by giant claws. Hiking and camping equipment was scattered everywhere, some broken, others stained with something dark that I prayed wasn't blood. "Mom?" Emma called, her voice breaking. "Aunt Karen? Rachel?" Only silence answered. I began to search the campsite, looking for any sign of the missing women. That's when I noticed something gleaming near one of the destroyed tents. I approached and picked up the object. It was a phone, the screen cracked but still working. On the screen, an unsent message. "Something's following us. Not human, not animal. God help us." The phone trembled in my hand, not just from the cold that now seemed to penetrate to my bones, from the weight of what that message implied. Emma looked at me, her eyes begging for answers I didn't have. What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I swallowed hard, trying to maintain my composure. "We keep searching. They might be injured, hiding somewhere nearby." But as we searched the destroyed campsite, a part of me knew we wouldn't find anything. The air had a metallic smell, like blood, mixed with something else, something that made my stomach turn. That's when I noticed something half buried in the mud. It looked like an old book, bound in leather. When I picked it up, I realized it was a journal. "It's my mom's," Emma said, recognizing the object. "She always takes it on hiking trips." With trembling hands, I opened the journal. First pages were innocent enough, detailing the trip and the first days of hiking. But as we progressed, the entries became more disturbing. October 3, finally, our annual trip. David was worried as always, but I promised we'd be back soon. On the way, I told Karen and Rachel those old stories about the whisper in the pines. We laughed, like we always do, but something in the shadows of the forest seemed different today. October 4. The hiking has been good, but there's something strange in the air. The birds are too quiet, and at night, we swear we hear footsteps around the camp. Too heavy to be a common animal. The next entry made my blood run cold. October 5th. We saw something today. On the other side of the clearing, tall, hairy, walking on two legs. We thought it might be a bear, but bears don't move like that. They don't look at you that way, with intelligence, with hunger. The following pages were stained, some torn. The last legible entry said, "They're coming. They're not just legends. The whisper in the pines is real. If anyone finds this, please tell our family." The sentence ended abruptly, a dark stain covering the rest of the page. Emma had tears in her eyes, her breathing rapid. "Alex, what happened to them? What is this thing?" Before I could answer, a long, agonized howl cut through the night air. It wasn't a wolf, nor any animal I knew. It was something in between. Half human, half beast. "We need to get out of here," I said, grabbing Emma's arm. "Now." We started running back to the clearing, to the backpacks. The sound of breaking branches and trampled leaves followed us, always close but never visible. When we reached the edge of the clearing, I stopped abruptly. The backpacks were gone. "No, no, no," I muttered, looking frantically around. "There," Emma shouted, pointing to the middle of the pond. The backpacks were there, floating silently in the dark waters, and on them a figure rose. Tall, hairy, with eyes that gleamed in the moonlight. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was something out of nightmares. "Emma, run!" I shouted, pushing the girl in the opposite direction of the pond. We ran through the forest, the sound of heavy footsteps and growls echoing behind us. My heart was beating uncontrollably, and adrenaline propelled me to continue, despite the fear that threatened to paralyze me. "This way," Emma shouted, pointing to a trail that veered away from the pond and into a denser part of the forest. We followed the trail, but the sounds of pursuit didn't diminish. In the midst of running, I tripped on a root and fell, my body colliding with the hard ground. Emma stopped abruptly, coming back to help me. "Come on, Alex, get up." With effort, I stood up, feeling a sharp pain in my ankle. We continued running, but I knew we couldn't keep up that pace for long. That's when we saw the light. Small cabin, its windows glowing with a faint but comforting light. It was our only chance. "There, let's go." I indicated with a gesture. We reached the cabin door and I pushed it hard. It was locked. Emma started banging desperately. "Someone, please open up. We're being chased." The door finally opened, revealing an elderly woman with a shotgun in her hands. She looked at us with surprise, but seeing the terror on our faces, she pulled us inside and quickly closed the door. "What's going on?" she asked, locking the door with several locks. "There's something in the forest," I said between panting breaths. "Something that's not human. It's chasing us." The woman frowned, but didn't seem to doubt our story. "You need to stay quiet. Whatever it is, it shouldn't know we're here." We hid in the cabin, trying to control our breathing. The sound of heavy footsteps and growls approached, circling the cabin. The woman held the shotgun firmly, ready for any eventuality. But the sound didn't stop. It continued to circle, as if the creature was trying to intimidate us, waiting for us to make a mistake. Suddenly, a sound of breaking glass came from one of the windows. Creature was trying to get in. "Stay behind me," the woman ordered, pointing the shotgun at the broken window. Creature stuck a claw through the window, trying to reach the lock. The woman fired, the deafening sound echoing through the cabin. The creature retreated with a howl of pain, but didn't give up. "This won't hold it for long," said the woman, reloading the shotgun. "We need a plan." I looked around frantically, searching for anything that could help us. My eyes stopped on an old shortwave radio on a table. "We can call for help," I suggested. "Maybe someone in the park can hear us." The woman nodded, and I ran to the radio, trying to tune it. The static was deafening. I kept turning the knobs. "Someone, please answer," I shouted into the microphone. "We're in the cabin near Pine Creek. We're being chased by a creature. We need help." For a moment, there was no response. Then a weak and distorted voice emerged through the static. "This is Hank. I received your message, Alex. We're on our way. Hold tight." Creature continued to try to enter. becoming increasingly aggressive. The woman shot whenever it approached, but we knew it was only a matter of time before the ammunition ran out. "What will we do when the bullets are gone?" Emma asked, her voice trembling with fear. "We'll fight with whatever we have," I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Hank is on his way, we just need to hold on." The woman nodded, but I could see the concern in her eyes. The creature finally managed to open one of the windows, sticking its head through the opening. I looked at it, horrified. Eyes gleamed with cruel intelligence, and its sharp teeth dripped saliva. "Emma, grab that chair," the woman ordered. Emma obeyed, handing the chair to the woman, who used it to strike the creature, forcing it to retreat again. But we knew it wouldn't be enough. "Alex, do you know how to shoot?" the woman asked, handing me the shotgun. "There's a sharp machete in the kitchen. Someone go get it, quick," the woman shouted, desperation evident in her voice. Emma ran to the kitchen. Meanwhile, we heard a huge noise coming from the door. Creature's massive body rammed the door with relentless force, each hit splintering the wood further. Emma returned from the kitchen, brandishing the machete, face pale but determined. "We can't hold it off forever," the elderly woman said, her voice trembling. "We need a plan." I took the shotgun from her and nodded. "Emma, take the machete. Stay behind me. If it gets in, we'll have to fight it off." Creature's growls grew louder, more menacing. The door was barely holding. We heard the distant sound of sirens, but they were too far away to help us in time. The woman glanced at a trapdoor on the floor. "There's a cellar. We can hide there, buy some time until help arrives." "No," I said firmly. "If we go down there, we'll be trapped. We have to face it here." Just then, the door gave way with a deafening crash. The creature burst into the room, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. It towered over us, a grotesque blend of human and beast, claws sharp and deadly. "Now!" I shouted. I fired the shotgun, the blast hitting the creature square in the chest. It staggered but didn't fall. Emma lunged forward, swinging the machete with all her might, slicing into its side. The creature roared in pain, claws slashing wildly. The woman grabbed a fireplace poker and joined the fray, striking at the creature's legs. We fought desperately, the confined space of the cabin, making the battle chaotic and brutal. The creature's strength was overwhelming, and despite our efforts, it continued its assault. It swung its massive arm, hitting the elderly woman and sending her crashing into the wall. Emma screamed, rushing to her side. The creature turned its attention to me, its eyes burning with fury. I fired again, but the shotgun was empty. In a final, desperate act, I grabbed a lantern from the table and hurled it at the creature. The lantern shattered, and flames erupted, engulfing the creature in fire. It howled in agony, thrashing wildly as the flames consumed it. "Get out!" I shouted to Emma and the woman. "Run!" We fled the burning cabin, stumbling into the forest. Behind us, the creature's howls grew weaker as the fire did its work. The cabin was a beacon of light in the dark forest, pyre marking the end of the nightmare. Hank and the rescue team arrived just as we emerged from the trees. Their faces a mix of relief and horror. They rushed to us, checking our injuries and helping us to safety. As the flames died down and the forest returned to its eerie silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't truly over. The creature's final, hate-filled eyes haunted my thoughts. The whisper in the pines was real, and though we had survived the night, I knew that some things in the Evergreen Forest would never rest. We were alive, but the forest had claimed its victims. The three women were never found, and their fate remained a dark mystery. The legends would grow, and the forest would continue to whisper its secrets to those brave or foolish enough to listen. And deep in the shadows, something would always be watching, waiting for the next soul to wander too far into the darkness.